Wild thing, I think I love you. Today I'm going to talk about the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual. Now, this is the original one. My original one that I got, I loaned to my brother and it never came back. So I had to buy a second-hand one. This one belonged to Michael Sullivan. So Mike, I've got your book. And the cover was not well liked. It hung over somebody's desk at TSR and it was hated, and it wasn't even a frame, and it got all ready, and when it was ready enough, they threw it away, the original of this. Isn't that horrible? Anyway, this book has all the monsters you might ever need. Everything you could think of from Legend is in this book. And some of them you hadn't thought. So, after explaining what these different definitions of the stats mean, it goes into the actual monsters. And some of them are ordinary things like apes and terror birds, giant ants. And some of them, that's not what I picture a basilisk looking like after Harry Potter, but this is what they looked like before Harry Potter. And, there's bears. Beholder is one that I think was made up for this game. And it was a really tough monster that showed up on lists, but not much had been done with it before the Wild Space module in 2nd edition for Spelljammer. Here's the Black Pudding, the Blink Dog. The Brain Mole is one of those psionic monsters that will eat you if you're psionic. The Brownie. There are a bunch of different humanoid races. And way too many. I think that what happened was in the early days of the game, when the players learned what orcs could do and how tough they were, Gary Gygax must say, well, okay, this time they're goblins. And when they learned them, okay, then they're not goblins, they're hobgoblins. No, they're bugbears. No, they're gnolls. And so there's a whole bunch of races that are pretty much identical, except their stats are slightly tougher. Now, the Boule, I always pronounced it Boulette until I heard Tim Chass say it was really pronounced Boule. This came from a set of plastic toys. There was a bunch of dinosaurs in a pack plus some imaginary animals. And the TSR peoples in their games started using them for monsters, even statted them out for the Boule, the Roper, and the Rust Monster. And I know somebody who bought those exact same plastic monsters. They were actually toys that tie into a Japanese TV show, and if that company would ever sell those, I'm sure there are lots of people who'd love to buy the original monsters. Okay, Carrion Crawler, Tanapias. There's Camel, Centaur, Chimera from the Pegasus story, Quaddle, like Quetzalcoatl, only lesser powered, Cockatrice, Crocodile. Now, there are some people who can open a book to a random page and find something that offends them. And those of us who play know that this game is biased in the favor of heroes who want to destroy evil. There are whole classes like Rangers and Paladins who have advantages on killing monsters and saving people and being lawful good. Many of the cleric spells are protection from evil, things like that. And so, to provide the ultimate evil for your heroes to face, they included demons. But these people, they opened it up to a random page and they found the demons. And I've heard with my own ears back in the 80s, Pat Robertson say he's seen a child who was possessed by the demons of Dungeons and Dragons. So the guy who spends time trying to figure out which one of the Teletubbies is gay says that all the monsters in this book are real, because if some of them are real, they must all be real. So yes. Now, Demogorgons always struck me as the most powerful of the demon princes, but TSR didn't do much with him. Most of the times when they wanted a demon prince, they used Orcus, not Demogorgon. I don't know why, because we always thought Demogorgon was the toughest one. The succubus, nice little sexy picture. One of my players kissed her, got a level drained, went off, did some fighting, leveled up, and went back to her so she could kiss him again. And so there's other kinds of demons, including this one's obviously based on the Balrog. And there's the devils. I don't know why there needs to be both demons and devils, but there are, including Asmodee and Beelzebub. This nice little barbed devil. This one, Dissipator. Nice little imitation succubus. Why does there need to be two of them? Okay, so then we have dinosaurs. Some people don't like that there's dinosaurs in the book, but I liked dinosaurs as foes, and there's like 4 pages of them, 3.5 at least. The Displacer Beast is an original monster. I liked that one a lot. There are more than one kind of genie. I don't know why there needs to be, but there was. A doppelganger, I've never seen them effectively used as they ought to be. They ought to be a really terrifying monster, but they never seem to work out that way because the players are too smart. Now, dragons, in first edition, there are all kinds of special rules for dragons. Their hit dice would be as stand. They have different amounts of hit points depending on how old they are, and their hit dice would be as they're written as far as saving throws go. So the young ones would be making saving throws like 8 hit dice monsters. But when they got to be adult, which is 5 or more hit points per die, then you would divide their hit points by 4 to get their hit dice that they make saves at. So the really tough ones would save at fewer hit dice than they had. There were basically 2 kinds. There were metallic dragons, and there were colored dragons, like the black dragon, the blue dragon, the red dragon. I think this is like the humanoids, that once they got used to the dragon who breathes fire, then you had to have the dragon who spits poison, the dragon that shoots lightning, and different kinds of dragons. So they had to be good dragons. Several different kinds. Now, 2 of these I'm not sure should be in this book. One is Tiamat. Tiamat had the head of an ancient dragon of each type of evil dragon, but she only had 128 hit points. So some people called her a glass cannon, but Tiamat is actually a goddess from Sumerian religion, and so if she's a goddess, she should have more hit points like that on her home plane. Like maybe the avatar of her should have 1,200 hit points. And Bahamut is the chief of the good dragons, the platinum dragon. And again, is he like the chief dragon, or is he the god of the dragons? Because if he's the god, he should be more powerful than that. And there's the dragon turtle. Here's a dryad who's way overdressed for a wood nymph. And dwarf. Ifrit is like the fire genie. And there's the elementals. Now, I always thought that the conjure elemental spell is way too high level, too hard to cast, that it takes 10 rounds to cast this thing, and it's a 5th level spell, And then once you cast it, you have to concentrate constantly to control the elemental. It should have been a much lower level spell, because as far as your enemies are concerned, they want to break your concentration, because an uncontrolled elemental is preferable to one under your control. Okay, so then there's elementals of each type here. And elephants, elves, several different kinds of elves here. Let's see, we got, back then it was only aquatic elves, gray elves, half elves, and wood elves. There were more later. The Etten, the Eye of the Deep. I think that Dave Arneson liked the giant frogs a lot. The giant gar, the violet fungi, gargoyle, ghost, ghoul. Just like there were too many humanoids, there were also too many distinct types of undead. It seemed to me there were only that many so that there could be one of each hit die of each step in turning undead. Now, the gelatinous cube should have gotten a picture. That's one of my favorite monsters, and there's no picture. And there's giants, several different kinds: cloud, fire, frost, hill, stone, and storm giant. And the gnolls, the gnomes, the goblins, the golems. The clay golems are like the original story of the rabbi who made the golem. And flesh golems like Frankenstein. There's also the iron golem like Talos, and the stone golem. The Gorgon struck me as really strange, because to me, Gorgons are Medusa and her sisters, not some fire-breathing bull. But there's some novel that this came from, that a lot of the ideas for D&D like Paladins also came from. There's Grey Ooze, the green slime, the Griffin, very iconic, legendary creature. I don't know why they named the Banshee Groaning Spirit instead of Banshee. Halflings, Harpies, another iconic monster, Hellhounds. A lot of the herd animals are spelled out, but if you come across one that's not, here's a generic herd animal listing. Hippocampus, Hippogriff, Hobgoblin, Homunculus, Hydra, another iconic Greek monster that Hercules fought. The Intellect Devourer will eat you if you're psionic. The Invisible Stalker is a really nice picture of the Invisible Stalker here. The Jackalware, I don't think I've seen a dungeon with one of those. It's a variation of werewolf, only it's a were-jackal. Chirons, like a super unicorn, kobolds, Lamia, Lamassu, lamprey, giant leech, leprechauns, Lucrata, lich, the lurker above, the lycanthropes. There were only werebears, warbears, were-rats, were-tigers, and were-wolves. No were-elephants, no were-fish. If you're a werefish, that'd be ichthyantropy, right? Wouldn't it? Were-elephant be pachydermanthropy? Okay, so there's the manticore, the mastodon. I like prehistoric monsters now. What should be a generic thing for Gorgon is just one for Medusa. And Medusa is the generic in this game, and she's a specific Greek figure. There's a listing for men with different types, like bandits, brigands, berserkers, buccaneers, cavemen, merchants, pilgrims, and then there's a merman. There's a whole bunch of aquatic man things, mermen, deep ones, all kinds of things like that. Way too many. I don't know why there needs to be more than one. Now, the Mind Flayer, I think, is original to the game. I think that it's based a little bit on Lovecraft, but I don't think it appears in Lovecraft anywhere. Here's our Minotaur. What the hell's a Morkoth? Okay, the Mummy, the Naga. That's where you get the Naga hide from. And the Night Hag. A Nightmare, Nixie. There's an Octopus. And the Nymph, no picture of the nymph, unless she's invisible, because, oh, there's ochre jelly and ogre, which is just basically a big caveman, ogre mage, and orcs. See, orcs are kind of pig-like back then. Ogtao. The owlbear picture was not that good. I've seen much better pictures even from that era. Pegasus. It was years before I noticed that the Periton had a human shadow. I don't think I've ever seen them used in a dungeon either. There's the Piercer, Pixie, there's a giant Portuguese man-o-war with no picture. Pseudo-dragon, purple worm, Quasit, Rakshasta. Okay, it's a nice picture of the rock, and then there's the Roper and the Rust Monster, both from that Japanese show. There's another merman type character, the Satyr. Shambling Mound is based loosely on both Swamp Thing and Man Thing, and more on Man Thing because they're not very intelligent. The Skeleton from Jason the Argonauts, big favorite monster of mine. The Giant Slug, Spectre, again, too many kinds of undead. Sphinxes, and sprites and sturges are basically big mosquitoes. The Sylph, which is almost, well, here's another, the Thought Eater, another monster will eat you if you have psionics. And there's a Titan, the Trapper, Treant, because the Tolkien estate wouldn't let them use it, so they just changed it to Treant. I don't think I've seen many dungeons that use them either. Another merman type, Tritons this time, Troglodytes. But I want to know for sure. The Trolls, again, come from that novel. This is not at all how I pictured trolls before this game. Umberhawk. Didn't see much use of Umberhawks before Spelljammer. There's Vampire, Giant Wasp, Blooderweird, White, Will-O-Wisps. Oh, the Windwalker picture, you can hardly see it, can you? And Zorn was one of my favorites. I don't remember them being used much in dungeons, in modules, but I'm a big fan of Rendezvous Drama, so a trilaterally symmetrical monster was cool to me. There's zombies and yetis, and that's pretty much it. And after that, they come with types of treasure. Each monster had a type of treasure they might have, ranging from 3 to 18 silver pieces per individual, all the way up to massive amounts of treasure. So this would tell you what kind of treasure that might have, and then you could roll random treasure. And if you're rolling random magic items, remember, most likely it's going to be something a fighter can use. And so there's an index. The table of contents doesn't tell you what page stuff is on, but the index does. Okay. So it's a great book, and it has pretty much every monster you might want out of Legend. It's in there, and there wasn't much need for more than that. And in the 1.5 era, they changed the cover. This is the cover for the 1.5 era, but you can get it from drive-through role-playing games. You can get it print on demand, the monster manual, and there's some errors from the process, but it's the same book. So, you know, you can, with the player's handbook, the DM's guide, and this book, that's all you need to run a campaign. So, thanks for listening.